Wessex League main match scoring system, entering a result into the system itself. So for the purposes of this, we'll assume we are entering, first of all, a track result. We've received a track slip from the timekeepers, and we enter the results in, well, we find the event. So in this case, we'll assume it's an under 13 girls 100 meter A string in the girls sheet, just to pick some results at random, FZ. So enter the club letter. It will pre-populate with a name and a club. Incidentally, notice how this has come up with not declared. We would then maybe go back to the original club and say, hey, you've run an athlete that's not declared. You need to make a declaration change. Let's assume, for the purposes of this presentation, that we go ahead and do that later on. Enter the results with seconds, decimal point, tenths of seconds. The system will always assume there are hundreds regardless of whether the timing system is using electronic timing or not. That's just a quirk of the system, I'm afraid. 14. Obviously, this may be a bit slower to type in if you are reading it off of a track slip. Here we go. So notice how the AAA grade, which is the England Athletic Standards, will update to show whether the performance is worthy of a grade 1, 2, 3 or 4 performance. And also this column indicates whether the performance meets a standard where it will be included in Athletics Weekly. And I also believe this standard is used for the Power of 10 website. So if you achieve this AW in quotes standard, then it will go on Power of 10 as well, because it's all run by the same body. The record, to know if an athlete has achieved a record, then it goes fluorescent yellow. This may be cause for celebration, or it just might be useful for whoever's looking at the results after the match. Anything faster than a record or equal to the record will show up as fluorescent yellow. If two athletes get the same performance, now we can't know just by looking at the time that the athletes have achieved the same performance. There will be some annotation on the track slip that yes, these two athletes finished in the same position. Obviously, the people timing the event may well have seen a difference between finishing, even though they had signed the two athletes at the same time. But let's assume there's an annotation that says these were equal first position. We need to manually, unfortunately, assign the points. Now, please note that the order of the team letters here, W, Y, U, A, FZ, will not necessarily match the order of the letters here, although it does seem to have done so. Just for clarity's sake, let me make this a little bit more obvious. So you see here we've got ZU as position 1 and 2. In the points column, this will be Z at the bottom and U here. We need to manually determine how many points to give these athletes. So if first is 6 points and second is 5 points, each athlete of the first two equal positions are going to be given 5.5 points. So overwrite the formulae which are in this cell here. If you made a mistake and you want to undo that, Control Z like you would do with any other Excel document. But let's again assume it's an equal position. Note that these values over here should also change. These are used to calculate the overall point scores for the club. You can't change these. You'll get an error if you try and type in these boxes. The only boxes you're able to change is the points column here. I personally like to annotate the position column and just make it obvious that these two athletes have got an equal position. You may or may not wish to do that yourself. Just bear in mind that changing this column will have no benefit, or it will not adjust these points. This needs to be done automatically. Oops, I've managed to completely break that. Again, don't try dragging it like I just did, because apparently that doesn't work. You'll need to just Control Z if you make a mistake. Okay, so that is a 100 meters. A few things to be aware of. The system is not clever enough to detect things like entry errors. So if I declare this athlete has achieved a faster time than this athlete, maybe I miskeyed and this should have been 14.3, but I accidentally typed 13.3. That's not detected. Also not detected is if two athletes, if I type the same letter in here, the system will happily say, oh, there's two Colin Terrells, fake names incidentally, from Fleet have achieved this this score, and it will also very confuse the points here. 7 is not achievable by any single athlete. So just go back and make sure you check these things manually. Obviously, it's not very easy to check on the day as you're entering this in, but do try and be mindful. The system should be set up where if there is no performance, then the AAA grade and the Athletics Weekly column should be blank. Another quirk is if you are finding yourself, you accidentally hit delete in a blank cell, you'll see the AW appear. This will only happen for track events, and if it does, just be mindful you need to have an apostrophe in this cell here. So AW now disappears. Entering a middle distance event, you need to adhere to a specific format, which is minute colon seconds dot decimal point tenths of seconds as an example time, which seems to be I've chosen it as a record. Now this format is important because it's the only way that it will automatically detect records, grades, and Athletics Weekly performances. AW performances or power of 10. I think it uses the same, like I say, same time value there. If I just enter 151.1 with 2 decimal points, it doesn't detect the record, it doesn't detect the grade, and it doesn't detect an Athletics Weekly performance. For field events, the data is entered in exactly the same way with letter. Long jump will be meters, decimal point, centimeters. Again, it's achieved a grade 3, Athletics Weekly. If I try and put a apostrophe in here, then it will confuse the system. This needs to be a blank, empty cell in order to denote that there was no athlete. And I believe that's everything. Maybe just quickly cover relays. The system will pre-populate with relay names. It will say not declared if any particular athlete wasn't declared in a relay. And again, the time, let's do 53.6, that's a record. If you try and enter a letter which is not recognized, so let's say B, which is not recognized in this system, then you'll be told wrong letter. Again, BB is wrong letter. Trying to enter a B string and an A string under the same event here is an error which will not be picked up. You see I've got AA and A both in the same A string here. In the case of a middle distance race, you may find that the strings are combined, in which case you will need to manually determine who was the A string and who was the B string. So if in the 800 here we run the under 13 girls and under the A string and B strings together, and we have AA. If AA finishes in a time, well, let's choose some people that were actually declared Y and YY. Yes, be careful of that Excel auto completion. You need to make sure you're typing a single letter or a double letter when you mean to. If YY ran faster than Y, then you'll need to manually change that before you enter the results. So this would be YY up here, 50.9, and this would be Y down here. The system is clever enough to put the correct name in there. However, you just again need to make sure that Excel is not trying to be clever and auto-completing the value for you. And that should be everything. So thank you very much for listening and good luck.